Your Dolby Atmos system is installed, the speakers are connected, the receiver is powered on, and it still sounds kind of flat, kind of underwhelming. Like it is missing something you cannot quite name. Here is the truth nobody told you when you bought it. Dolby Atmos is not just about having more speakers. It is about having the right placement, the right settings, and the right calibration for your specific room. And most people get at least one of those things completely wrong. Today, we are fixing all of it. Before we get into it, drop a comment below telling me which home theater system or soundbar you are running right now and what issues you are facing with your Atmos setup. I read every single comment. And if this kind of practical content helps you, hit subscribe and leave a like. It genuinely helps this channel. The real problem: Atmos is not just more speakers. Let us start with the most important mindset shift. Dolby Atmos is not a traditional surround sound format where more speakers simply equals better sound. It is an object-based audio format, which means sounds are placed and moved through three-dimensional space based on how the audio was mixed. The system depends entirely on your speakers being in the right positions so that the receiver can render those objects correctly. When placement is off, the entire three-dimensional field collapses, and what you hear is just louder, messier sound instead of genuinely immersive audio. This is why even a well-known system like the Donana VRX 3800H paired with quality speakers can sound disappointing when the setup is wrong. And it is also why fixing the placement and settings without spending a single extra dollar can completely transform what you hear. Mistake 1. Surround speakers mounted too high. The single most common placement mistake in Atmos setups is mounting surround speakers too high on the walls. People see a surround sound diagram, notice there are height channels involved, and assume that mounting everything up near the ceiling creates a better sense of height. It does the exact opposite. Your surround speakers, the ones covering left surround and right surround at the sides or rear of the room, should sit close to seated ear height. When they are mounted too high, the vertical separation between the surround layer and the height layer disappears. Your brain can no longer distinguish between sounds coming from the sides and sounds coming from above, and the entire three-dimensional effect that Dolby Atmos is built around gets completely destroyed. Bring those surrounds down to ear level and you will immediately notice a much cleaner separation between the different layers of sound. Mistake 2. Upward firing modules in the wrong room. Upward firing Atmos speaker modules are popular because they are easy to add to an existing setup without installing ceiling speakers. The idea is that they fire sound toward the ceiling, which then reflects down toward the listening position to simulate overhead audio. That works beautifully in the right room. In the wrong room, it creates a diffuse, smeared mess. If your ceiling is too high, too low, angled, covered in heavy material, or broken up by beams and fixtures, the reflected sound cannot form a convincing overhead image. Many people blame Dolby Atmos for sounding fake or unimpressive when the real culprit is upward firing modules bouncing sound off a ceiling that was never going to cooperate. The cleaner fix in those rooms is properly installed ceiling speakers or wall-mounted height speakers positioned according to Dolby's official placement guidelines. If your room cannot support reflected height effects well, stop fighting it. Switch to direct radiating height channels and recalibrate the system. Mistake 3. Wrong channel layout. Set in the receiver. This one is purely a settings mistake and it quietly ruins Atmos performance for a huge number of people. Dolby Atmos rendering inside an AV receiver depends on the receiver knowing exactly how many speakers are in the system and where they are positioned. If your receiver is configured for a 7.1 layout, but you have added 2 height speakers and you never updated the speaker configuration in the menu, the receiver is not correctly mapping those height channels. It is doing its best with wrong information. You need to go into your receiver speaker setup menu and make sure the configuration matches your actual physical setup precisely. Whether you are running a 5.1.2, a 5.1.4, a 7.1.2, or a full 7.1.4 system, the receiver needs to know exactly what it is working with. A receiver like the Onkyo TX-RZ50 or the Marantz Cinema 30 will only render Atmos correctly when that layout is set correctly. Do not assume the receiver figured it out automatically during initial setup. Mistake 4. Skipping room. Calibration. Calibration is treated like an optional bonus step by most people who set up home theater systems. Run the speakers, it sounds okay, skip the calibration, and move on. That is one of the biggest mistakes you can make with an Atmos system. Room calibration is not just about setting speaker distances and volume levels. It is about correcting for how your specific room affects sound. Every room has its own acoustic signature based on its dimensions, the materials in it, the furniture, and the way sound waves interact with all of those surfaces. Without calibration, your Atmos system is tuned for a generic room that does not exist, not the actual room you are sitting in. After calibration, bass tightens up, height channels become more distinct, and the whole presentation becomes more balanced and natural. Most modern receivers, including the Denon AVRX 3800H and the Sony STRAZ 5000ES, include built-in auto-calibration tools that take about 10 minutes to run. There is no good reason to skip it. After running auto-calibration, go back and manually check your height channel levels. Height speakers are often set slightly too low by calibration systems, and nudging them up by 1 or 2 decibels can significantly improve how convincingly overhead effects are rendered. This is especially true in rooms with softer ceilings or acoustic panels that absorb sound more aggressively than hard surfaces do. The calibration microphone measures what it hears, but it cannot always account for the psychoacoustic way your brain perceives height. So even when the levels measure correctly on paper, they can still feel underwhelming during actual content playback. Trust your ears after the microphone does its job. Sit in your main listening position, play a scene with active overhead effects, rain, helicopters, anything moving through the ceiling layer, and gradually raise the height channels until the overhead image feels natural and three-dimensional rather than vague and distant. That manual final step is what separates a technically calibrated system from one that actually sounds the way Dolby Atmos was designed to sound. It is also worth running calibration again if you ever rearrange your furniture, add new speakers, or make any significant changes to the room. Your acoustic environment is not static, and your calibration should reflect the room as it actually exists today, not the way it was arranged 6 months ago when you first ran the setup. Treating calibration as a one-time task is almost as bad as skipping it entirely. What about soundbars? Do the same rules apply? Yes, and in some ways the stakes are even higher with soundbars because you have less physical flexibility with placement. A premium soundbar like the Samsung HWQ990F, which runs an 11-channel Atmos configuration with rear speakers and upward-firing drivers, depends heavily on being positioned correctly in front of the listening area and having rear speakers placed at the right distance and height behind the seating position. The JBL Bar 1000 MK2 and the Sony HTA 7000 face the same requirements. If the soundbar is pushed too far to one side, angled incorrectly, or if the rear units are placed too close or too high, the Atmos processing inside the bar cannot build a convincing three-dimensional feel. For soundbar setups, also check your TV's audio output settings and make sure you are connected via HDMI IEARC rather than optical cable. An optical connection cannot carry the full Atmos signal, which means even a top-tier soundbar like the Samsung HWQ990D is receiving a downgraded audio stream before it even starts processing. One cable swap to the EARC labeled HDMI port on your television immediately unlocks the full signal that your soundbar was designed to receive. Here is the most important thing to take away from everything covered in this video. Most people who feel disappointed with their Dolby Atmos system are not disappointed with Dolby Atmos. They are disappointed with a setup that was never configured correctly in the first place. The format itself is genuinely capable of creating one of the most immersive listening experiences you can have at home, but it only delivers that experience when placement is right, when the receiver knows exactly what layout it is working with, and when calibration has been run to tune everything to the actual room. Fix the surround speaker height. Address the upward firing module situation honestly based on your ceiling. Set your channel layout correctly in the receiver menu. Run room calibration, then fine-tune the height channels manually if needed. Check your connection type if you are on a soundbar setup. None of these fixes cost anything. They just require a bit of attention and about 30 minutes of your time. Drop a comment below telling me which part of this was the mistake hiding in your setup. Hit like if this video helped, subscribe so you catch the next one, and I will see you there.